So the number one question I get asked the most is, how did I get my dealer's license? Or how did I become a used car dealer? And this is despite the fact that I made a video a few months ago showing how I went broke as a full-time used car dealer. So now I'm about to head over to look at all the dealer auction cars, and as I hoopty shop, I guess I'll do my best to answer this question, even though you'll just forget everything 5 minutes after watching this and ask me again later. The first thing I always suggest is someone actually work at a car dealership for a little bit and see how difficult it can be. Unless it's a very high volume store, it can take years to build up a decent clientele, giving you enough referral business to make a living. And starting out, you're only going to source customers that are walk-ins, and you're lucky to close on 1 out of every 10 people you talk to. And there will probably be months where you make less than what people make working at McDonald's. But at a good store, you can learn a lot in 6 months to a year. Before I started my old dealership, I worked at CarMax as well as a franchise BMW, Cadillac, and Chevrolet store. I was 20 years old when I started at the franchise dealership, and the very first person I walked up and talked to ended up buying a new loaded out truck, and he didn't negotiate on the price off full sticker, and he owed $10,000 more on his trade-in than what the wholesale dealers were bidding on it. This was before the Great Recession, and banks were much more loose with lending money, so they approved this guy at full retail with $10,000 financed on top to cover his upside down trade, and I made $1,500. Since it was my first day, I figured this is what it was like every day around here, so I immediately spent the money on a new plasma screen TV. Ends up, I didn't make a sale the next day or the next week, and when I finally did make another sale, it was a $200 minimum commission on a Chevy Cobalt. I lasted a little less than a year before quitting to focus on finishing college, but I learned a lot. And if you don't have a conversational personality and aren't willing to be even a little pushy to motivate people to buy a car, you don't stand a very good chance of making it. For me, once a customer left the lot without some kind of commitment, 4 out of 5 times they would just never come back. If they say they're going to talk to the wife, check with their bank, or pray on it, chances are you are never going to see them again. Anywho, the auction is about to start, so I better head that way. After working at a dealership for a while, or you could just disregard my advice, which is understandable, and decide you want to start up your own little car lot and start peddling hoopties, many people are surprised when I tell them there are lots of hoops to jump through to get licensed. Most states don't want casual part-time used car dealers working out of your home, and believe me, you don't want a lot of these people coming to your house anyway. So the first step in getting your dealer's license is finding a property zoned commercial to rent. My first space was about $900 a month, and it was a 2,000 square foot building in a warehouse area. I prefer this space over a highly visible car lot because I could store more of my inventory inside and keep them clean and secure. And since most sales nowadays come from the internet anyway, it worked out fine for me. Most states require some kind of zoning board approval, or in smaller towns the city council has to vote on whether to approve the location for the dealership. A lot of people view car lots as eyesores, which was recently the case with my mechanic, the car wizard, when he recently got his license. He's located right next to a historic train station museum, where I film sometimes, and somebody there didn't like the idea of a car lot being next door and tried to use their political muscle to block it. Thankfully, the car wizard was able to wizard his way around it, but there are also funny little zoning laws about parking and other reasons that just give bureaucrats a reason to say no. So don't sign a lease on a property until you're sure the site is approved, or make the lease conditional on the site approval. Once that's out of the way, the next step is insurance. Of course, every state is going to require some pretty hefty liability insurance and some kind of bond, and you'd want to have it anyway. I think my state has a $100,000 minimum for liability, and with people driving around your cars doing God knows what on test drives, I didn't feel like that was enough and went with a $1 million policy. Even with the minimums, you'll have a hard time finding dealership insurance for under $5,000 a year. That overhead really does stack up, even if you want to remain small and have your business in a low rent area. I think you'll have a hard time keeping your overhead under $2,000 a month, which is the cost of your building, life insurance, and all other expenses. And once again, most states don't want people to do this part-time. Most require you to post business hours, have a business phone, along with tons of other little rules to follow. You also have to learn how to properly fill out car titles, collect sales tax, and cities and So I'm tagging along today with my good friend Michael Keaton. He's been in the car business for 25 years. His name is actually Bob. He just looks like Batman.
I'm Batman.
And this is his beautiful 79 Mercury Capri Turbo RS. He had one similar to this in high school.
My first car.
Since I'm completely broke, I'm going to tag along with Bob and see if he's able to buy anything at the auctions today. And we're starting here at the main one, actually just a few miles from my house, where I've bought a lot of my hoopties, like recently the $500 Subaru SVX and a few others. So let's go take a look.
All right, sounds good. I'm Batman.
Ooh, look, a first generation Escalade. Got a little weird wire. Oh my. Oh. Oh my. Oh, that was a rough Taco Tuesday. Batman and I had taken a look at the auction cars earlier and found 3 standouts, including this 2003 Toyota RAV4 with a little over 100,000 miles, which looked nice and drove fine, but the check engine light was on and it had accidents on the history report. Still worth a bid. We also like this 2003 Mazda B2300 pickup with 159,000 miles. That felt solid, minus some normal old truck suspension rattles. And we really like this minty-looking 2011 Toyota Sienna XLE with 93,000 miles, and it really didn't need a thing. You got me a sticker, which isn't a good idea. Unfortunately, there were plenty of dealers looking to spend a lot of money at the auction today, and Bob lost out handily on the first 2. The RAV4 sold after fees for nearly $3,900, which is way above what KBB says trade-in value is, and almost into private party range. Keep in mind this is for a car with 2 accidents on the history report and a check engine light. You don't test the handbrake?
Handbrakes just slow you down.
Oh.
We're worried more about go.
The Mazda pickup was even more shocking, selling for around $2,800 with fees, which is almost $2,000 more than KBB trade-in and well above private party range. Same goes for the van, just way too much in my opinion to make any kind of profit unless you're making money on the financing with high interest buy here pay here style loans. To lift Bob's spirits, I let him take the wheel of my LS Swap 911.
Throttle response.
Yeah,
if you look up the dictionary throttle response, they'll show a video clip of this car. Holy crap.
Looks familiar. Even if you come out empty-handed from the auction, there are plenty of other ways to get franchise dealer trade-ins. Some lots have their own sealed bid auctions on site, and will also open up the bidding to some of their aged inventory that's not selling, hoping for a decent wholesale bid so they can clean out their stale units for something fresh. Now somebody traded this in for a new S-Class lease, I bet.
First thing I do when I look at any car is I get an impression of the interior, because that will tell you about the owner. This was a challenged individual.
You're very diplomatic there.
Yeah, so let's
give her a shot.
Let's give her a spin here, see what happens. 188,000 miles.
That's like a record for a PT. Give her the beans.
Do is put a load on the engine. We have a misfire, we have a knock. It's a real easy no.
Oh, come on. So you're telling me we can bid on this 2013 Ferrari California?
Yes, from a PT Cruiser to a Ferrari California.
Bob, I got about $3,800 in the bank. So if I bust open my daughter's piggy bank, that's another 20 bucks. So let's just make it an even $4,000. Can we bid that?
I'm saying no, because I'd like to continue to do business here, and I wouldn't really want to give them a punch in the gut like that.
I'm Batman.
The downside of a sealed bid auction is there's no instant gratification. Sometimes you have to wait until later that evening or even a few days to find out if your bid was higher than all the others. Bob finds a lot of really cool cars for his lot this way, but buying good inventory is half the battle. Now, if you're actually able to buy some cars for a decent price, don't laugh, my microphone ran out of memory, this is the backup. you actually have to go to the trouble of fixing all of the problems with the cars while not eating up your profit margin and then selling them, and it's not easy. My strategy was to sell them at private party value. Since it's so competitive with other dealers, I was never going to match the big guys in a marketing budget, so I had to give really good deals on cars to get people in the door, and they had to be cars that they actually wanted. But that can also be hard since Japanese vehicles, as you saw, and any kind of truck, which pretty much is what everybody wants around here, can bring private party value at auction. Oh, here comes the train. This is the one thing about Bob's location that's pretty rough. Get ready for this. Alright, I moved back inside because of the train and all the traffic. It was just too much. But as you can see, it takes a lot more effort to have a dealership than you think. And for me, the return wasn't enough to be on call 7 days a week and dealing with all the headaches. So I have a lot of respect for the guys that are still out there hustling. At this point, I basically run a car lot kind of anyway, except the only customer is myself, and it's really easy to sell that idiot anything. Speaking of which, there's a Jag XJR out there for only $7 grand, and it looks really yummy. Thank you for watching.